Weights and Downer. You or someone you know has lost the ability to earn a living because someone put the company interests before their well-being. In times like these, there's one firm who has handled hundreds of catastrophic and lost earning cases. Before you settle fast with a company's attorney, give Weights and Downer a call. 985-876-0870. Weights and Downer. Let us fight for your rights.
All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls. We're going to talk a little bit about an amendment coming up that you really need to listen to and figure out, because you got to hear the whole story so you can make a good decision. And we like to do that on Bayou Time. We have Representative Orgeron. And good to see you. How are you?
Doing fine, Martin. Thank you very much for having me.
Staying busy, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
All right. So this amendment that we're talking about, I'll let you give it's a constitutional amendment. I'll let you give the overall view, and then we'll get into a couple of questions and all, because some people could get confused that this might be against the oil and gas industry, but I guess they got to hear the whole story and
Correct.
Sort of pick their avenues to get in there and peel it away. Absolutely.
It absolutely does nothing to detriment the oil and gas industry. All it does is, as Louisiana moves from primarily an oil and gas energy state to an all of the above energy state, any offshore revenue that's generated offshore, off the coast, just like we already have the 20-year-old oil and gas dedication to coastal protection and restoration, this would add any other energy that gets done offshore. We would be dedicating any federal revenue we receive also to coastal protection and restoration, basically just marrying new monies that we may get in the future with the oil and gas money.
Now, we run out, what, 2031? When do we run out?
The BP oil spill money, the last payment we're going to get is 2031. So from 2032 on, the state of Louisiana is going to be without the BP oil spill money to take care of our coastal master plan.
So the problem, and I say problem, or maybe it's an opportunity for Louisiana, when you have to go address members of Congress or influential people, or even lobbyists for that matter, who are lobbying for these states that want the windmills and everything else, you got to go in there with a plan. If they hear nothing but hydrocarbons coming out of your mouth, they're going to shut you down real quick. So where's the fine tuning?
It's easy. Probably 10, 12 years ago, working in the family boat business, looking for alternative revenue streams so that we weren't so much in the ups and downs of the oil and gas industry. I went up to the East Coast and I worked on offshore wind turbines. And what I found was that the East Coast, they don't have anything offshore, and they really didn't know how to install stuff offshore. So following in my footsteps, we got some names you may have heard before, like Edison Schwess Offshore, Hornbeck, Secor, Aries Marine, Harvey Gulf, Geis Offshore. All of these companies are all bread and butter Gulf of Mexico oil and gas that have all subsequently gone up to the East Coast and basically worked in there and have an alternative revenue stream. And whenever I go up to the East Coast, they usually put me with those people that we're trying to get federal legislation to do two things: roll in offshore wind revenue for them into the revenue sharing program, just like what we have with GoMesa, and to also change GoMesa's formula so that we could remove the cap and increase the percentages. And hopefully after that 2031 time frame, we would have gotten a mechanism to be able to get more from the federal government, from the royalties that are produced right here offshore in the Gulf of Mexico.
I mean, the names you just mentioned, that's some heavy hitters, so much a part of our economy. Without those heavy hitters, our economy tanks. I mean, I guess you're looking at in this ordinance, just to let people know, it's an inclusive way to try to bring everybody to the table and say, okay, here's the best of both worlds.
That's right. We're still going to get we're trying to get even more oil and gas revenue and anything else that comes from any other form of energy all going to protect the coast, to fund our coastal master plan.
Where's the blowback from this?
The blowback is from my fellow legislators in North Louisiana, for the most part, that's saying, hey, you know, we're talking about tax reform. If there's new forms of money, how do we get a piece of that? Why can't we get a piece of that? And the fact is that, keep in mind, with the offshore oil and gas, this is revenue from either royalties or offshore wind or solar or whatever it is that they're planning on producing, not on Louisiana soil, not even in Louisiana waters, the first 3 miles. This is on the outer continental shelf, but it can't be done without the people who live in this area right here. The ports, the people that live in our Bayou region, they need the support of CPRA to be able to continue living here and be able to support the offshore energy infrastructure.
Is this God, I'm thinking back. I remember the oil and gas industry had different fights, but never a fight. It's once we injected the windmills and we injected the alternative sources, then it became a situation where, okay, how are we going to pick a little bit of this and a little bit of that? So it was almost injected, really, I guess, by the new administration, but it's created a negotiating monster, which y'all have to jump through.
That's right. And I think my Port Fourchon director, Chet Chasson, says it best. It's not energy transition, it's energy addition. We're just adding new forms. And believe it or not, I mean, anybody who works in the offshore oil and gas industry, you know, says, well, we don't want no windmills, we're all oil and gas. But the windmill work that my family business did helped actually sustain us for a while during the downturns. And that's why all the big vessel operators that I mentioned are up there now, so that they could basically continue to be here and not have to lay off people and stack up boats in the docks and stuff like that. So it's an all of the above energy industry that we move into. Louisiana's like prime set to be able to capitalize on that, and that's why adding this all other energies into that Coastal Protection Restoration Fund is very important, and a vote yes on amendment number 1 is a very important vote.
All right, we'll come back for another segment. I'm curious as to what a Trump administration, would that change the plan, or would it keep it the same? I'd love to hear your answer. We'll take a little short break. We'll come back. Representative Andron, we're going to talk more about this amendment coming up. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, welcome back. We're talking about this amendment that's coming up, and let me just let you know that early voting starts on the 18th and goes through the 29th, and we're talking with our representative, Phil Andron. There you see him right there. I alluded to it before we went to the break, but what does a Harris win do for this amendment? What does a Trump win do for this amendment?
Well,
so you take that deep breath.
Yes, I do take that deep breath. Of course, I'm hoping for one more than the other. Obviously, being a Republican and caring about my Bayou community and our region's economics. So opening up the Gulf. Getting, what in the boat business, what we counted on, those consistent oil sale leases are very important to make sure that the pulse of the industry continues to thrive. I'm just hoping that we have that good outcome and that the revenue stream comes in. We're able to, we were able to get a vote on the amendment that shows that people are willing, regardless of the energy type, to dedicate it to those communities. And then as we move forward to the special session on tax reform, that we're basically leaving those dedications for coastal restoration alone, that those don't become part of the potential cutting block or on the cutting block to change. Then beyond that, I would really, really hope that we open up that Gulf for drilling, for more drilling, and basically the economy continues to grow. The tax reform brings in more companies, and we get more revenue, both from offshore activities as well as stopping the out-migration that's happened. I mean, you hear constantly about New York, people leaving New York, people leaving California and moving to Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, all because of no income tax. And actually Alabama and Mississippi also had a small amount of in-migration, but Louisiana was the only state that still had out-migration. And that's what we want to turn around with the tax reform session that we're going to have, lowering the income tax rates, spreading the base on sales tax a little bit wider.
So you would be one that would be hoping that if Trump gets in, then the influx of business comes back, the Gulf starts booming again, revenue starts coming. But what about some of the, I guess, taxes that were offset to take care of the situation because we didn't have that? There are probably two thoughts or two theories on this. One, you give it back to the people, or two, you could roll it over.
Well, the problem with rolling it over in my book is that just gives the opportunity for those surpluses, which in the past we've used for some very important infrastructure projects right here in our area, Morganza, the Gulf, my South Lafourche levee system, et cetera. But if you make the tax reform changes and the overall environment for Louisiana is better, and we have that positive election result that grows the economy, then I would rather see, for instance, a temporary sales tax. Should the economy grow and we meet certain measures, then I'd like to see that put back into the people's pockets and be able to keep it. That nobody spends your hard-earned labor and money better than you yourself, not you giving it to the government for them to decide how to spend. That's my belief.
Yeah, and that's always seems to be I don't think it would be such a devastating argument if the monies are rolling into Louisiana, but it always is an argument. It's about being fiscally conservative, and the other ones want to use it for projects. So there in itself is a negotiating line somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
My day job as executive director of Restore Retreat, I'm advocating for large-scale coastal restoration projects like Morganza, the Gulf, that protects primarily Terrebonne, and all the other ones, the diversion projects, et cetera, and the rocking around Grand Isle and things like that. So I know that coastal master plan of CPRA has a dollar amount. It's a 50-year plan, about $1 billion a year, and I'm just so worried that with the BP oil spill money gives us the shot in the arm for up until 2031 to get a lot of aggressive projects done. And then I just don't want it to see that we're going back into the same old in Louisiana politics and economics and falling and not having the money to continue on and finishing a lot of our projects.
That's always been a good discussion. I'm sure your group and the CPRA, that'd be a good debate one day.
It would
we
be.
Get y'all on to talk about it, because to me that's so interesting, the different dynamics that go on in a state, especially our state being so close to the coastline. It offers a lot of insight, but there's probably a million different solutions.
Well, fortunately, I think after Katrina, whenever the CPRE actually was formed, they took politics out of it and they started looking specifically at the science and putting things in the toolboxes. Barrier island restoration, back marshes, land bridges, levees around the communities, slurry pumping of sediment inside the marsh area to create new marsh, and then of course the diversion projects, which basically reconnect the Mississippi that grew all of our estuaries, both the beautiful Terrebonne and the beautiful Barataria estuary on the other side of Lafourche, two of the most productive estuaries in the nation that are also the most rapidly eroding estuaries. So let's take off the tourniquet off the thigh and stop the gangrene. And
we are good. You gave me an idea. We're going to get everybody in there and have a round table.
I would like that.
Because there's a bunch of pros and cons on both of them, and I want to hear them all. All right, well, look, thank you for coming by. Let's say, when's the date again? 18th through the 29th. Saturday the
18th through the 29th of October is early voting, and day of voting is on November 5th. That is a Tuesday.
All right, and a vote for would?
A vote for would dedicate any revenue that Louisiana gets from other forms of energy beyond oil and gas to be married with those of oil and gas, which are all going to the Coastal Restoration Protection Fund.
All right, you'd have been a good TV host. You got it in time. We'll see you a little later right here on Bayou Time. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.